Hey, listeners. My name is Elisha, the founder of the Witnesses podcast. It's so beautiful to have you listening to our podcast. And I want you to know something that means a whole lot to me. Thank you for tuning in. And one thing I love to tell all of our listeners is it's not just about you listening, but listening to understand. Understanding is the most important thing. So important. So, you have to listen, learn, and practice. Thank you so very much and happy listening.
Hi, Constantin. It's nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Elijah, I'm doing amazing, brother. Thank you for having me on the show. It's so good to be here with you and your audience.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, so before we begin with your introduction, you know, oftentimes I love to talk about the essence of the show, which is to invite amazing guests, amazing guests like you to come talk to us about their triumphant stories. Why is that? Well, the reason for that is we believe that in our audience, there might be someone who is stuck up in a situation that you came out of triumphantly. So maybe that person or people just listening to you speak, there might be a piece of information that it will get stick into their brain, their minds, their heart, and will lead to their transformation. So that's the essence of the show. All right, so Constantine, I want us to get started with your story, the challenges that you faced, and how you overcame them. Then afterwards, I've got some questions for you. Okay, so let's get started.
Yes, Elijah, let's do it. I'll start at the beginning. I was born in Eastern Europe, Romania, during the communist time. And that meant there was a time of scarcity, a time of fear. So a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of fixed mindset type scenarios were ingrained within me. So I would say those were the first challenges I had to overcome as a young adult, moving to North America, to Canada, to move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, to move from a place where I was full of fear, full of uncertainty, to less fear and more certainty. And then later in life, which is, I would say, my biggest challenge today that I've been able to overcome, and I'm so grateful to have had to face a challenge, has definitely been mental health related, meaning depression, anxiety, burnout, stress, even suicidal thoughts at times, right? And that was something that was clouding me for quite a while, the depression itself. And it was very, very, very heavy in 2022. And 2023 and now this beautiful year, 2024, has been transformational. I've been able to finally get to the other side, find the tools and the people that I need to be successful in life. And it's not that I wasn't successful before. That's the kicker. I've always been a successful person in terms of how the outside world perceives me. Great career, great family life, shiny toys, the American dream or the Canadian dream, as you may. But inside, I was lacking that. So I would say that's the biggest challenge that not only was I able to overcome, but a lot of people these days find inspiration in and empowerment, because most of us, unfortunately, have our own traumas, have some sort of a challenge in the mental health and emotional health department. And most of us don't have where to turn to or don't know how to begin tackling that. And that's what I now dedicate a lot of my life to, helping people uncover tools and ways in which they can deal with their own issues, as I call them, or as they call them, but also look at them as more like challenges that are just waiting to be solved. So then you can have a path to abundance, fulfillment, joy, happiness, whatever it is that you want in life.
Amazing. That's so beautiful. Okay, so let us dive into the questions. Are you ready? All,
Absolutely, Elijah. Let's do
all
it.
right. So let us talk about um, Unleash Thyself podcast.
Yes.
What inspired you to start the podcast, and how has it contributed to your own personal and professional growth? You got it?
Wow. Yes. Yeah. I'll start with the end in mind here with the last question. How has it contributed? I can't even begin to tell you, Elijah, how amazing it's been. I've learned so much, met so many beautiful souls. It made me a much better person, gave me an opportunity to see things differently than I ever thought possible. Now let's take it back to the first question you had. How did I get inspired to start that and then be on this path? Well, for me, one of my big catalysts in my journey to overcome those challenges I mentioned to you, and there were more challenges within that, like procrastination, hesitation, overwhelmed, self-doubt. But to overcome that, I started with finding what I call my why or my purpose in life, because I always thought that there was more to life than what you may be led to believe by society, by cultures, by whomever, and yourself at times. And once I identified that, it was very clear that I am here to inspire, empower individuals, to be in service of others. And I said, okay, so how can I now put this into practice? I can do it at my professional job, which I am. I can do it in my personal life, but I want to have a bigger impact. I want to bring information out to the public. Beautiful stories, very much the same as you're doing, Elijah. So to me, that's how the idea started back in 2022. But it wasn't until 2023 May when I went live with the show, because of my own challenges with self-doubt, because of my own challenges with depression and anxiety and burnout, with my own challenges of like really figuring it out. But that was really the inspiration behind it.
Okay, okay. It's getting really interesting. All right, so another question. Are you ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
of course, let's do it.
All right. So let's say someone asks you this question, that what advice would you give to someone who is struggling to find their purpose or direction in life, both personally and professionally? You got it?
Yeah, yeah, I love the question, Elijah. Okay, so there's again, I'd like to start with the last part of your question. You said both personally and professionally, and that's something that I've noticed in helping so many people find theirs and finding my own and talking to many people, is that for whatever reason, and I don't know why it happens as much, people believe that the purpose, they have one for their professional life and then they have one for their personal life, and they can't really meet in the middle. Sometimes there's overlap, sometimes they're not. I am a strong believer that you can have, or you do have, one overarching purpose, mission in life, why, whatever you want to call it. It's ever evolving, because as you understand that, you grow as a person. As you grow as a person, so does your why. And it's a beautiful dance and a cycle there. However, I do not see a path where you can have two separate ones, one for my professional life and one for my personal life, that are very different, and you still be successful. You're still going to be joyful. You're still going to find fulfillment. There has to be a pretty big connection between the two. And that was for me as well. When I realized, okay, this is my purpose and my why, I never looked at it as like, oh, is this for my professional life or is this for my personal life? But rather, I came at it the other way and I said, okay, this is it. How does it show up in my personal life? How does it show up in my professional life? And of course, it wasn't showing up much. That's why I was having so much trouble with depression and anxiety and burnout and not feeling fulfilled, despite having a great career, despite having a lot of different things. And it was about aligning myself. Okay, so I believe I am this person, because your why, your purpose, it's really who you are at your core. Below all the indoctrination, below all the boxes that people put around you or boxes you put yourself in, it's who you are at your core. So if you know that, then you can say, okay, so how can I bring more of it into all aspects of my life in unison? So then it doesn't matter if I go to work and I could be the barista at Starbucks, or I could be someone in an office or a construction worker. It doesn't really matter where, or who I come home or who I'm with friends. I'm the same person, because what drives me is the same why, the same purpose, the same set of gifts I came here on this planet with. So that's one part of it. Now, for someone struggling to find those answers, there, on my podcast, I talk a lot about this because it's a topic that I'm very, very passionate. So you can come do a deeper dive. I have some episodes going live actually in the coming weeks. I have some other that are live on how to actually go about doing this. But really, there are a few simple steps I can share here, Elijah. One is you got to start by looking at, what would you do if you had all the money in the world, if you had all the resources? What would you do even if no one paid you? Like, is there something that you would do? Play a sport, help people out? What is it that you would do if no one paid you? Look at your passions. What brings you true joy, happiness, and fulfillment? Is it being with people, collaborating, communicating? In my case, for example, and this one is an easy one, for me, every time I was mentoring someone, every time I was giving back to someone, I could see the impact it had and how much it meant to them. That made my day, that made my week, that made my month. So it was very easy for me to kind of come back from that and say, okay, let's dig deeper. So find those things and dig deeper. What I mean by digging deeper is go below the surface, not what the first thing that comes up is, but more like the feelings behind it. So what about me mentoring someone? What feelings does it bring up? How are those feelings showing up? How are the feelings for me and for the others? And that's essentially what you do. Now, the process that I work with my clients, for example, on this takes a couple of weeks, but it's about looking at stories of your life to see the true person showing up pretty much in every of those stories. And you start to see themes, you start to see things that are specific to you. And from there, you can then have a much better idea of your why and purpose. And then once you have it, then it's easy. You do an inventory, see that it shows up or doesn't show up in your life, and then make an effort to bring more of it into your life.
Amazing. That was so filled with a lot of insight, I tell you. I'm truly enjoying our
Thank you.
conversation. Okay, so
Thank you.
we've got two more questions left. I love the way
Of course.
you're answering those questions. When the audience are listening, I'm very sure it is going to bless them. No, that's a great one. All right, so um,
Yeah.
all right, so this is about a story. It says, can you share a story of personal transformation or significant turning point in your life that led you to become the person you are today? You got it?
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
there's a few that come to mind.
All right.
I'm gonna share a different type of story, one that happened recently, because I've shared it with a couple of friends and a couple of coworkers, and they're like, "Wow, that's actually a powerful story, and it might be one that could inspire people and people could relate." So the story took place this past weekend, so on a Saturday night. I have a fairly new vehicle I purchased recently, and I'm really happy with it. I'm grateful to be able to drive it. And I took it out for a spin to go to a friend's house to have a get together, a small party, if you may. And as I start driving, I start hearing water pouring down the side of my car. And I'm like, that's weird. It's raining outside, sure, but there shouldn't be any water inside. I can't see anything. So the few minutes pass, and I get to the stoplight. And all of a sudden, water starts rushing down from every orifice in the upper half of the car, right? So from the roof, from the ceiling, water pours down on the center console, on the chairs, on the seats in the back, the trunk. So, like most people, and that's like everyone, you'd have a reaction in the moment. It's like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. Perhaps people would say, this is happening to me. Why is this happening? I was going through all of those thoughts. Now, here's where the transformation piece came in. For the last few years, I've done a lot of work, personal work, on understanding my thought patterns and my beliefs and devising strategies and getting tools to be able to decide, hey, is this a thought that I want to allow in my field? Because here's what happens. From a thought and a belief, essentially, you go to a feeling or emotion. It's pretty quick. And then there's a feeding cycle where feelings and emotions will trigger more thoughts and beliefs. And then as that happens, actions will take place. So, for example, in that moment, let's say I have a thought, I can't believe this is happening to me. I don't have time to deal with this. That's likely a more negative type of outlook. That will turn into a negative feeling, which will then feed into more negative thoughts. It gets in this cycle. And then the actions I would take have some negative connotation. Like old me, someone from like a few years ago, would turn the car around, we'll go home. I'll be pissed off the entire weekend. Saturday night, Sunday, I would call as many people as I could and complain and have a pity party around the situation. I mean, because it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, it's just a car. They'll take care of it at the shop whenever I get to deal with it. So that would be the old me. And you know what happens when you take an action, you're going to have an outcome. And most of us want better outcomes. But if our actions are not as good as they could be because our emotions and feelings are not great, we have to look at the thoughts and beliefs. So that's what I realized in the moment. I'm like, okay, so I have this knowledge. This is what I teach people. This is what I help people do in their daily lives. I've been doing it for a while. I know it works. I allow those thoughts to come up, the feelings, and I had to feel the feelings, meaning that, the anger that came up, the sadness, whatever came up, just feel it. But then I made a choice. I don't want to stay with that because if I do, it's going to impact the rest of everything and it's going to impact other people as well. So I did my own exercises and managed to pull myself out of it. Now, 10 minutes pass. I get to my friend's place. I tell them, hey, I'm going to be 10 minutes late. I need to clean this up. I cleaned it up while continuing my exercises. And as I got to their apartment building, I finished my exercises, went on to enjoy a beautiful evening. It was like 4 or 5 hours of us having conversations. At no point did that incident come up to bother me, to make me be like, oh, but you should tell them so you can complain, so you can get into it. And of course, after the fact, I got to reflect on it a lot. And I said, wow, that incident happened for me as opposed to me. Yes, it's unfortunate. It's still somewhat negative. But why did it happen for me? Well, for one, it taught me or reminded me how far I've come. Because I know how old me would react. I know how old me would do things. And it was a beautiful reminder. So it allowed me to celebrate myself, to say, wow, Constantin, you've come a long way. The second part of that is I get to share this beautiful story with you on a podcast, with your audience. People will likely relate because most of us drive. So how would you react if something like that happened? Now, I'm not coming from a place where like, oh, I'm better than anyone else because I reacted this way, but more from a spot where I want to give you hope that it doesn't matter what your thoughts and beliefs are right now. You have 100% the power to change anything and everything, assuming you want to, because you always have a choice.
I'm really enjoying this. Okay, good. In conclusion, Constantine, what advice would you give to the audience? And afterwards, let's say someone would like to listen to your podcast. How will that be possible? Okay.
Yes. So advice, I mean, there's always so much, but one that comes up a lot, if anyone is watching this as opposed to just listening, I have a sign to the top here, to the top right, that says follow your heart. And the one below says love. And both are very important, but I would focus on the following your heart. And following your heart means knowing what's in your heart and what you really want to do. And that goes back to that finding your why, finding your purpose. And I'll be honest with you, ever since the day I made a decision to follow my heart, I've never looked back. I've never been happier, more fulfilled in my life. And in fact, I work more hours than ever before. Perhaps I have less money than ever before, but I have much richer relationships with myself and with everyone else, including nature, including the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. Everything improved tenfold because I, instead of being stuck in my head only, I went down to my heart as well and tapped into that. So if there's anything you take out of this, is you know that you have the power. And if you want a better life, you can have a better life, but it starts with you. Now, as far as my podcast and where you can find me, it's Unleash Thyself. The idea of essentially moving the leash that sometimes we put on our own and we keep ourselves small and we keep ourselves in check, and unleashing that best version of ourselves. So that's what the show is about. And it has some spiritual undertones, but a lot of personal development and self-discovery. You can find it on YouTube at Unleash Thyself, on all the major podcasting platforms at unleashthyself.com, for example, the website. And you can reach out to me as well. Shoot me an email, Constantin at unleashthyself.com. I always love to talk to people. If you want to work with me, sure, send me a message. We'll have a conversation.
That's amazing. Nah, that's so amazing. Okay, Constantine, would you like to come again? Because I really want to have you on the show again. Is that going to be possible?
Absolutely, Elisha. We can definitely set it up. Why not?
All right, that's so good. So that's going to be the end of the show. Thank you so very much, Constantine. Thank you for honoring the invite. It means a whole lot, brother. Thank you.
Thank you to the audience as well and everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this incredible episode. Your support means the world to us, and we truly value you. We look forward to having you join us for the next episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Your feedback is greatly appreciated.